It's like every time somebody says that, I can picture the dangling fly paper. Surely it's a safe place. Look at all those flies on it. Some flies doing there.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax. HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to episode 339 of the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs. Joining me is Donna Grindle of Cardin. How's it going, Donna?
It's just moving right along. Happy freaking New Year.
Yeah. So what is this, like the third day of the new year? So far, South Carolina
recording it.
Yeah, as we're recording, yeah.
Yeah, we're recording on an odd day, so that messes everything up even more.
Yeah. South Carolina has had like 8 earthquakes so far this year. And we had a terrible windstorm this morning, which knocked the power out for a while.
That wind was crazy last night. That thing was hauling it to hit our house and your house.
Mm-hmm.
One right after another. But yeah, I got up this morning and stuff is just like in a pile in the backyard.
Yeah. I'm still missing some things that were in the yard. I don't know who's got them. They're probably about a mile away from here.
That's like the in the middle episode. I loved the in the middle episode where they were struggling because they needed a new washer and dryer, and they had, and then the stress of a tornado made them say it's not that important. And they opened the door, and the new washer and dryer has landed in their yard from some other.
Yeah.
They run out and get it. Okay. Anyway,
it's a miracle.
A miracle. Yeah, I love that show.
All right, so today we're going to be talking about the 5 steps for securing your social media. And
yeah,
it's a thing. We'll talk more about it this entire episode.
Jeez.
But first, let's remind you guys that the HIPAA Boot Camp in February. Got to put the R in there. It's coming up. So check it out at thehipaabootcamp.com. to learn more, to sign up. But it will be February 22 through 25, and it will be virtual.
Jeez.
And which means you don't have to wear pants. So,
which is what David prefers.
Exactly.
And but then we also have our in-person event, save the date, for September 12th through the 15th. It's 3.5 days in person. There's going to be some great stuff we've got planned. And by the end of this month, we will have everything out there so you can sign up for that and start getting your plans in.
Yeah. And that's going to be a privacy and security boot camp. So
yeah,
more than just the HIPAA.
Yeah. Well, we're going to start saying, hey, you got to look at the big picture because there's way more to worry about. But yeah, help you with everything, as David says.
That's right. And if you want to learn more about Cardin, you can find that at cardinhq.com or HIPAA for MSPs at HIPAAforMSPs.com.
There you go. Easy peasy.
Here we go. So let's talk about social media and securing it and why. Let's start with why. Sound like a title of a good book. Well, let's start there.
Yeah, because stuff goes wrong.
Yeah.
There's, for everybody else outside of HIPAA and healthcare, you've got plenty to worry about that if somebody takes over your account. Nothing hits the news faster than somebody's taking over somebody's social media.
Yeah. I mean, social media accounts are an extension of your business. So if somebody has access to that account, then they basically become the spokesperson for your business.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have experienced this either directly or indirectly, but usually not from a business standpoint. And, you've seen your friends who have had their Facebook account taken over or the Instagram account taken over. Shout out to my son who still hasn't recovered his Instagram account from being taken over. They will start They'll take over your account. They'll start sending all the people on your list all kind of junk, trying to get them to click on other things or just send them money or whatever. They become you. From a social media standpoint, they become you. And if people aren't diligent enough to say, I wonder if this is really David messaging me wanting money.
Yeah. Or advertising that I love this service. You should go sign up for it now.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of things can happen. It can be bad, but you wouldn't just give anybody the keys to your business or to be able to advertise as you or your business. And this is what that is. This is protecting that.
Or just let anybody go out and, I've now, random person is my PR person. Go on out and tell them what we think of our clients and customers.
And also remember that a lot of people use their social media accounts as a way to log into other things. And so if I've got access to your Facebook account and you use your Facebook account as a single sign-on source to log into something else, I can now potentially get to that as well.
Yes. Do you do that, David?
I cannot tell a lie. No, I don't. I create accounts for everything. So I'm one of the people that like, I don't want to do single sign-on. And it's really for that reason, because I know that there's a potential there that if somebody gets into my Google account, then they can go jump into all these other accounts that I have out there because I've, not set up accounts for those. I know the risks are, there's some mitigation happening in different levels and it's not quite that easy, but it's still a risk I don't want to take.
Pros and cons.
Yeah. So, and it's because I have a password manager is the reason why I'm like, I'll just create a different account. But yeah, there's some cons to that too, because if I've been dumb, which I don't do, but if I've been dumb and use the same password on all these different places, then that's a lot of different places I got to change a password whenever it gets compromised, which is, yet another reason not to use the same password.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of importance, and there's still, speaking of password manager, there was a whole lot of hoobaloo. What's the word? There's a lot of chatter about LastPass.
I kind of like hoobaloo.
Hoobaloo. Just making stuff up. Hullabaloo. There is maybe what I was looking for. Anyway, there was a lot of chatter about LastPass being under attack or something like that. And basically, LastPass is like, we don't see any attacks. So whatever's happening, it's so there was a combination of a credential stuffing attack, as well as some people getting notified inappropriately that someone was using their account or trying to log in, is what they said. And any other time there's been a problem, they've been pretty transparent and forthcoming. So, making you change passwords and do all these other things. So, forgot we should probably brought that up.
We just did.
There we did. Done. Check. Moving on.
All right. So we've established that your social media accounts are important. And I know from my standpoint on the IT side, I see social media accounts not being treated with enough security. People don't consider these things we've been talking about. And it's just like any other login to anything else. It needs to be protected, and there's things you need to do. And I don't see that happening a lot, which is kind of scary. And there's been some horror stories that I could personally share about it. But let's take a look at some of the things we can do.
Well, first, let's make sure we add in healthcare, we have to worry about not releasing inappropriate information more than most.
Oh, yeah.
On social media. So in healthcare, I've got to worry about my business social media and the employee social media. And what happens, can you imagine somebody taking over health system social media and patients are posting things and they start mouthing off at them?
Or get them to go somewhere else and do something else.
So in healthcare, it's exacerbated as far as the importance of making sure you do this right.
Yep.
So I wanted to make sure I threw that in there because I started with healthcare is different. Thought I might add.
Yeah. All right. So what's the first thing we should do?
Make a policy.
Start with the paperwork.
Yeah, I knew that there was this company that really needed our help. I was quite aware they needed our help because I was brought in by technical people telling them. And basically, without going into details, the owner of the company, when they decided, well, yeah, this is a huge problem, because it was a huge problem that he needed to take care of immediately. And I said, well, you start by putting together a procedure, how you want it handled, your policy. I don't have time to do that. I just want to fix it. Well, if you don't have a plan for fixing it, that's called starting in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we just randomly started in the middle of the podcast, we should try that. Just start in the middle at some point and let everybody guess the beginning.
Yeah. And that attitude probably is what got him where he was, that prompted the call to you anyway.
Well, which also, that response made me go, I don't think we're a good fit.
Yeah, it's not me, it's you.
There you go. So let's make a policy.
Yeah, like your policy was, we shall not do business with people like you.
If the red flags are going off in the first conversations, they ain't gonna get better.
Yeah, the thing about a policy, though, is you're looking at how the account can be used, and especially when you've got employees that are using your social media account, they need to have a policy to understand what they should do, what they should not do. Even if you're outsourcing this, you probably want to have some type of policy to say, Mr. Vendor, I know that you're managing our social media accounts, but you need to follow this particular policy on how we do things.
That's exactly the part that a lot of people forget about in healthcare, because you got to remember your patients may be posting stuff on there.
Mm-hmm.
Because people have a lot of TMI issues. they'll post all kinds of stuff on social media.
But Donna, it's just Facebook. It's not real.
But you don't respond with, we hadn't got your test results back. Just keep putting that salve on it. Did you get that tube we told you to get?
So like something I did to a friend of mine one time. I posted on his account and I said, I hope your doctor's visit went well and you got rid of that rash down there. It just out of the blue posted it on his page.
Yeah. And if you had worked in healthcare and done that, there would be some problems, because that would imply so many other things. But yes. Yeah, it's fun stuff. But again, you need to know, like, a policy about your patients in your policy. Have a policy about what your patients post, so that you let them know, look, if you put sensitive stuff out here, it's not on us.
Mm-hmm.
But we are not going to respond.
Yeah, it's probably worth telling them. Otherwise, you have patients that'll say, I put something out there on their Facebook page and they won't respond to me. I'm giving them a 1-star review.
And that happens anyway,
Yeah. All right, so we got a policy in place. We're ready to go. Know what to do. What's step number 2 for security?
Access controls. Like, who you going to let do this? And how you going to let them do it. And I mean, there's a ton of access control features in the social media apps themselves. They all have a little something different.
Mm-hmm.
And we also know multi-factor authentication really matters, although it's getting kind of scary out there. I don't know. I sent you an article I was reading this morning. Did you see it? That there's always
the copy and paste stuff?
No.
Oh, different one.
There's a different one. Oh, maybe I didn't send you that one. Yeah, it's even worse.
I'm not going to read it then, not today.
I forgot to send you that one. But that they have found phishing kits in 2019. They had 200 and something phishing kits that included an MFA bypass.
Oh.
Like ways to go steal it. And there are ways, which is a whole nother discussion. This year, they found 1,200.
Oh, God.
A 600-time increase.
Mm.
Or, 6 times. 600%.
Yeah, but there's
There you
nothing
go.
to worry about.
So, I hate all the folks that are rolling out 2FA, MFA, whatever you want to call it, and doing it with SMS to a phone number. That's a huge problem.
Mhm.
However, if that's all you got, you do it. And there are ways to share MFA tokens from an app like Google Authenticator, any of the others. There are ways to share those on a single account across multiple people.
Yep.
It can be done, but we're not going to go into that.
Yeah. Well, you have to be careful on a lot of these things because even some of them that are truly cloud-based, like one that comes to mind is Authy, which I like Authy, but there's some risks involved in Authy because you can actually install it on a computer. And of course you have to, you have to set it up. It's not like you can just install it, but once you set it up, you can use the installed version on your computer to pull your 2FA codes. You don't have to have your phone anymore. So that can be a problem for those people who, allow their devices to get stolen from their car that's not locked. And now you've got your 2FA stuff sitting out there on it.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't need to be encrypted because it doesn't have PHI on it.
You are going to make me bang my head on this desk before it's over with.
Yeah, so you got to have the proper credentials and allow people to have access to it. You can share on most of them, like a company page, you can designate individuals to have access to it. And I would recommend, like, particularly on something like Facebook, where people have their normal accounts, their personal accounts, if they use them to share discussions with crazy people like you, maybe they should set up a separate account that they use just for work stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of people do that.
Well,
But
the other thing about this too, couple things. One is you've got to be very careful who you let manage the account and give them the minimal necessary access.
minimum necessary?
Have you ever heard that before?
I'll be.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be. Knock
I
me
know-
down and steal my teeth. I've never heard that before.
I know there once was a man that allowed somebody access to their company's Facebook account to manage it. And that person, because the guy didn't know better, I guess, gave the person admin capabilities. And it wasn't long before that person was the only one that had admin capabilities because they locked everybody else out and held the company
Held it hostage.
Yeah. You're not paying the bill. So, you can't get back into your Facebook account. Nanner.
Yeah.
So, again, back to the policy. Hopefully that's in there. Don't give people admin access unless they absolutely have to have it.
Right.
Yeah, in most cases, they don't.
There's a ton of additional controls. So once you've decided, you make your policy and, you're going to say, here's how we're going to handle it. And you're going to put these things in your policy, by the way. We're telling you what goes in the policy. But, there's decisions you got to make. But on those app controls, you can say, here are trusted locations. I have to be on this device. I have to be at this IP address, all of those kind of things in order to control posting as well, which is you've got to look at each individual application that you're going to use in order to do that. So those are, you don't just say, hey, we're going to do this. You've got to look at all those different settings unless you're going to limit where your company accounts are. And then get back to the vendors.
Oh, yeah.
The vendors that take over, we'll handle your social media management for you.
Yeah. It's a thing.
Yeah, it is. It is. those are the ones that always tell me, oh, you don't have to worry. We got HIPAA covered. More than once, we vetted these folks only to find out, guess what, David?
They spell HIPAA wrong.
Their idea of having HIPAA covered was signing a BAA.
Wow, you got that much?
Mm-hmm. Yep. They don't know what's in it, but so you really have to understand, like what you mentioned, the concerns about what is the service level agreement, who does have control of the account, what happens if you part ways. But in healthcare, you've also got to have in there what happens if they are responsible for a HIPAA violation.
Mm-hmm.
Because they get this, and it's salespeople most of the time that I'm having to deal with at a conference. And this guy's like, oh, yeah, we have HIPAA covered. And I was like, I'll be the one to be judging that.
Not likely, but yeah.
If you're that proud, usually that's a warning bell for me.
We're going through this right now with a non-HIPAA regulated client. And just out of the blue, this vendor calls like, I'm so-and-so from so-and-so marketing, and we need access to your client's social media account. And I'm like, no. and then the client calls, and the client's like, yeah, just give them whatever they want. It's okay. That's who we hired. And I'm like, no. Hold on. Let's have a conversation about this first. I mean, if you still want to give it to them, that's fine. But I don't think you understand the risk involved here in what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And so we had to have a conversation, and they're like, oh, okay. I see where the problems are with just give them access to anything. And so they shifted gears a little bit, but that's the typical response we see is, hey, we hired this company, give them access to our accounts. They're going to manage them. Surely they know what they're doing. They got all these other. It drives me nuts. That comment
That's the
drives
worst.
me nuts. It's like every time somebody says that, I can picture the dangling fly paper. Surely it's a safe place. Look at all those flies on it. Some flies doing there.
Okay, that was one of those moments. The visual's just too much for me. It's overwhelming. When you grow up out in the country and every screen porch you walked into had two of those hanging by the doors.
Oh, yeah. And every fly on there was probably going, look, it's got to be safe. Look at all them flies there.
It looks like a tasty bar. It's quite popular.
Yeah. All them people hanging out there. It's got to be good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Well, that's like, you learn to ask the question, like I just said, they go to there and they're like, well, we have all of these clients. Okay. Do you have any in mind? Because if you have some in mind, I know you've been vetted and I don't know your name. But that means nothing. I mean, I don't know all our clients anymore. We've just got too many for me to keep up with. And so many of them have the same freaking name. So, I think, you can only call cardiologists so many things. But anyway, the bigger issue is going to continue to be vet the vendors.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, they won't have PHI. TikTok. I've got them where now they're selling these messaging services where your patients can message you.
Mm-hmm.
Or their chat services. And they tell them, you don't need a BAA for that. We're just chatting. Where's that conversation going? Oh, well, it's just between my computer and theirs, right?
Of course. It's a direct connection.
That's a VPN. They use VPNs. Don't worry about it. Okay, so we vet the vendors in many ways, and you vet them. Don't do the, I don't have to have a BAA because they don't have PHI. Fine, but they could potentially cause you to violate HIPAA.
Yeah, they are acting on your behalf.
Yeah, and so Our job is to help you with HIPAA. So don't just
Mhm.
assume, because we know about assume.
And I think most of these vendors assume that HIPAA doesn't touch them.
Mhm.
There's a company not far from me, and the owner of that company and me are in a group together, a business group together, and we've had this conversation several times, and he has the same response every time. Yeah, but we don't do that. We don't touch that. Well, okay, but wouldn't you like to have some knowledge about it more so you kind of understand how to stay away from it?
Mhm.
Yeah, no, we sign liability waivers. We're not worried about it.
Yeah. The law
Okay.
says what you do makes you liable. Just doing it.
Yeah.
Just doing it, regardless of any contracts or anything else. If you do it, you cannot like sign a waiver that you're not responsible for HIPAA. That doesn't exist. If so, that's what all of us would do, right?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
the other thing
no.
is like, okay, it's also a thing that you don't know what you don't know. So let's just assume that you are staying away from it. Do you
Mhm.
know what it is to stay away from? There's some
Yeah, that's
value in
always-
that.
That's like the IT people that say, well, we never sign into the EHR. But you have complete control of the network, all the servers, all the devices, the firewall, everything.
Yeah. We just wait for somebody else to sign into it, and then we go to Which, that's a good point to bring up back to the credential management thing is that if you're going to have other people managing your accounts, then don't let them all do it under the same username and password, because when something goes wrong, you're not going to know who really did it.
Everybody be pointing fingers.
Mm.
Yeah. So you got to make sure you keep that narrow, which is a perfect segue into situational awareness. Now, and by the way, did we mention we pulled all of these from a new CISA bulletin? Probably not.
No,
We're just acting
we
like
took
we
full
made it
credit
up.
for it ourselves. We took full credit for it.
Look what happens. Look what we do. There is a CISA bulletin about this, telling you these things that we will have a link to. It's the Capacity Enhancement Social Media Account Protection. We're just like, hey, there's 5 things to do.
Just the
Let's talk
capacity enhancement guy got me. I'm like, I don't even know what they're talking about.
I don't either. I think that's a category they have to use. I don't know.
Yeah,
But-
anything that comes in my email that has enhancement on it, it gets sent to a different folder.
Well, I try to pay attention to the CISA stuff because they are giving us things to allow us to be situationally aware so that we know, oh, guess what? There's an attack going on against Twitter. There's an attack happening against LinkedIn. Or let's say that you're a company that's had a data breach and social media starts picking up, and I don't remember the company, the health system that was dealing with a ransomware attack, but we were, when we watched that social media feed.
Oh, Scripps?
I mean, yeah, that one. Watching that day, I'll never forget that day, just watching what was going on and understanding not only, what the health system was going through. I mean, they're still a victim of this attack, but you've got the employees not knowing what to do. And then that only exacerbates the patient experience, which is what this was all about. So being aware that, as they say, there's some stuff going down.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't pay attention, if you ain't looking, trouble's a cooking.
Yep.
That's all I'm saying.
And this too is where if you're outsourcing your security, I won't just say IT, but if you're outsourcing your security, then you should have the ability to have somebody else doing a lot of this stuff for you, if not all of this stuff for you, where they're paying attention to things that are valuable to you, and then they'll notify you when something is bigger. Because if you're just looking at what's the buzz phrase I hate nowadays, mainstream media. If you're just looking at mainstream media for your cybersecurity coverage, if it hits the big news, then it's big.
It's done.
It's massive.
Well, and it can be big, but they can't figure it out sometimes.
Yeah.
In a way to narrow it down to 4 words, which is what that news is generally covering.
Yeah.
4 words onto the next soundbite.
Yeah, but there's a ton of stuff that you really need to be worried about that never makes the news.
Right. No.
At least not the news where you turn it on the 6 o'clock news. It's not going to make that.
Well, and it doesn't make it makes the nerd news.
Oh yeah,
which is
Yeah.
that's why people are listening to us, is to get the
The
relevant
nerd
news. But being aware and paying attention to what's happening on your social media account. I'm just as guilty as others a lot of times for not studying and paying attention to the things that are happening on the social media account because I've just got so much to keep up with. I need to hire somebody. No, do not send me a proposal.
Please send her a proposal. She needs to hire somebody. You heard it. You heard it.
As soon as it came out, I was like, bring it back. Pull it back. Pull it back.
You just look. Send her a proposal and go ahead and vet yourself when you do it. Send all the information about your privacy and security program, your policies, procedures, and go ahead.
I want to know how you follow recognized security practices. I want all the details. It's not a pretty process. No, not at all.
All right. So guess what? No matter what you did, something went wrong.
Yeah. So guess what you need?
Your ERP. You need an ERP.
Incident response plan. Always required. It needs to be in. You have to have an incident response plan to deal with when things go wrong.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you just trying to figure it out on the fly, and that doesn't work very well.
Usually there are mistakes.
I say it's more than usual. It's guaranteed.
Well, we just talked about the data breach case, where they clearly had no plan because they didn't know what they were doing. They were just worried about getting up and running. Nothing else.
If you fail to plan, you shall plan to fail.
Is that Ben Franklin?
I don't know.
It's like beer is proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy. Didn't he also say that?
I don't know that either. I don't know much about what he said except, ow! I do remember that.
Electricity.
Ooh, that bites.
Ow. Yeah, he's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, more details. We all know that when we were younger, we're glad social media did exist.
Yeah. Ben Franklin was probably the one that said, hold my beer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, just the stories of what he did the whole time he was in France trying to get us support during the Civil War, or the Revolutionary War. He spent all his time over there. He's an old fella, right? But yeah, you can see him now. Yeah, the good news, social media didn't exist. But another point in your incident response. If something gets out there, what you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
How do you get it off? Because there's cases where more than once, people get bold and they post something because if it creates an emotional reaction, there's so much that goes on today. If it's creating an emotional reaction, that is your first sign to back away from the keyboard. Do not post anything. Take a breath and go look some stuff up. Right? And not from whoever just made you have a If something makes you angry and wants you to create an instant response, stop. Because that instant response will require an incident response, not too long after. That was a good one. It was there. It just came to me.
Yeah. You must have an instant response plan. That's for those who don't have an instant response plan.
That's right. Yeah, you're just going to have to figure it out on the fly. That's what an instant response plan is. But it's a huge piece of everything that we do. And for people who are like, do you have an incident response plan? Well, yeah, IT takes care of the backup. What about a disaster recovery? Well, they take care of the backup. What about business? Well, they take care of the backup. Oh, no.
Oh, speaking of which, did you see the news article where a university lost like 77 terabytes of research data because the backup wouldn't recover?
No.
Yeah, like massive amounts of research. Gone forever. Because
That's a lot of data.
they realized that backups were quote unquote working, but they weren't recoverable.
This is why you have to have more than just, what is it you say? You do not pay for backup.
Yep. You pay for the ability to recover your data.
You pay for the restore. I can buy backups all day long, but if they don't have restore on the back end,
Yep.
all I've done is thrown money
Well,
away.
the other thing is that's what they test. Oh, we tested your backup. What does that mean? That means we looked at it and it said that it backed up properly. Okay, but that is not what you're paying for.
No.
You're paying for the ability to recover that data.
Yes.
How often has that been tested? Oh, we don't do that.
Mhm. Well, now you know. I did see like Tokyo somewhere that they've lost some floppy drives that created a data breach. I swear it said floppy drives.
Wow. Well, it's interesting
don't know.
because this place that lost the research, I think, was Tokyo as well.
Well, maybe that's the floppy drives.
Maybe the floppy drives were the backups.
Ah.
That would be
Oh, no. Now
interesting.
we're going to have to look that up and get back to you. But
Remember we used to back up the floppy drives? You had to sit there and keep flopping them things. Anyway, okay.
Yeah.
Let's get back to this. So luckily, the wonderful folks over at CISA have given us some cybersecurity incident and vulnerability response playbooks
yes.
that you can get some detailed guidance on. So as you build your incident response plan, you don't have to start from, I don't know. You can start from a place of somebody has put something together for you to get you going.
And I love that they point out it is not solely focused on IT,
I wonder why.
because incident response plans shouldn't solely focus on IT. That's what I think. What do you think?
I think that I agree with you. 100%.
So all the people who say, well, we don't have any help doing this and we don't know how to do this, and my neighbor's nephew is good with video games and says we don't need to do this. I Googled it and it says we're fine. I've got it in a manual. I printed out the templates. We're good.
Mm,
None of those work.
No.
None of those. None of those. Yeah.
no.
I got a guy who'll show up no matter what. Yeah, those are the ones that just don't answer the call when the 12 or 13 clients they have for one guy working by himself. But they're all healthcare. Yeah. Bye when they all get hit and have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, do not let social media lure you into complacency. That's huge.
Yep.
Make sure you have a policy. Make sure in your policy you've thought through access controls, privacy controls, controls for any third party that you're going to allow in. How are you going to manage that? What are you going to do? How do you know? Pay attention to what's going on. If you don't look. Now, David and I will admit, people have posted things and then we're like, oh crap, we didn't see that. Thanks.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with
Yeah.
because
So we
the
know.
more you have, the harder it is to keep up with.
Right. And then have a plan because it will go wrong. And
At some point.
Yes. And so when you have that moment to have an emotional response, you should put that in your policy. If you feel an emotional response to something that happened, do not touch the company social media accounts.
Let me tell you one thing.
No, move away from the keyboard. Those are that's your big takeaways right there. And I'm sure that we can group them so there's 5 of them, which is what I was saying we need to pick.
If your social media post starts with all due respect,
or for what it's worth, or in my humble opinion,
I'm not trying to be mean here, but
if you have to start with an apology, then you should back it up.
That's right.
And you don't start with I disagree either, because that's just going to create, because that means you're having an emotional response more than likely, because on social media for your business, you should never tell somebody they're wrong.
Yep. Say, I agree with you, stupid.
While I understand how you feel about it, I cannot address this via social media. Please contact us directly at this number.
911. Oh boy. Well,
I think
everybody now knows how to do it. Yeah, in there before somebody knocks on my door. If you want to know, I live in Stone Mountain, Georgia. You can find me.
You need to back it up, Jack.
All right, folks, that is our show for today. Thanks for listening. Be sure to share this out and help us to grow our audience so we can tell more people how to secure their social media and listen to the nerd news. Remember, for Donna and myself, that HIPAA's not about compliance.
It's about patient care.
Good job.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.